Hello everyone, and welcome to a reading wrap-up for the Tales from Two Trails competition between Team Elephants and what is the other one? Pirates? I'm on Team Elephants. Go Team Elephants. We won the last round. Today is March 22nd. Last night I finished my last reading prompt for my team. So I finally got everything logged and submitted. So I'm going to do this wrap-up now. Okay, so for March, I hope Team Elephants win again. Let's go. We'll see how things go. So the first prompt was a random animal generator, and this is hosted by Kim, and she is the team lead for my team. So this takes place from the 26th of the month, or basically when the end of the month is, for as many time zones, if not all time zones, through the 25th type of a thing. It starts, and then, so that's kind of about the time range, is about the 26th to 25th. So the first prompt is random animal generator for my team, and the animal that Kim generated is a fire-bellied toad. I will try to look up an image of a fire-bellied toad. My understanding is they are bright colors, and so a bright colored book. So that's the prompt. Somehow we need to match it to a fire-bellied toad, whether bright colors or a frog or toad on the cover. I went with a bright cover. All right, so I just looked up an image for the fire-bellied toad, and he's got kind of a, depending on the picture, it can be like a bright to an olive-y green. Black, and then the belly is black and like a bright orange, which fits this book perfectly. So I am going with Ways to Be Me by Libby Scott and Rebecca Westcott. This was 287 pages. I gave this one 4 stars. It's a middle grade, and it follows Tally. Was that her name? Yes, Tally. Follows 10-year-old Tally as she is adjusting to be in year 6 in school. This takes place in the UK. So she's on like year 6, and she's trying to fit in and read certain situations, act a certain way so she can be accepted by her group of friends. And obviously with acting certain ways, or how she perceives she needs to act at school, she gets home and has like these big meltdowns. And so the family is trying to find out what's going on so they can do to help her. And turns out she is autistic. And so you're following Tally as she's figuring things out and starting to understand autism and things like that. So yeah, 4 stars. And this was also the selection for Autism Reads, which is a year-long read-along that I am hosting, where each author is on the autism spectrum. Libby Scott is autistic, and we read a book every month by an author who is autistic. So yeah, this was the selection for March. Prompt number 2 was to do a random letter generator, and then with the letter that comes up, you use that for either the title starts with that letter or the author's surname. Okay, so the surname, I always have to try to remember the surname. We don't call it surname in America, at least in my area. And I am not well-traveled or anything like that. So maybe they'd use surnames, call it surnames later, further away from me than I am. But we call it last name. So M needs to be the first letter of the author's surname, aka in my neck of the woods in America, it is last name. So the letter that I generated was M, like March. So I went with a book that starts with the title starts with the letter M, and I went with Maeve Fly by C.J. Leede. This is an adult horror book, and holy cow, I loved this book. This went there. It was graphic. It was just, usually the evil or bad person is a man in books, but in this case the bad person is a woman, and it was great to read about. It was definitely different, and I loved that. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved that it went there with the gore and the darkness of it and messing with your mind. 271 pages, and that's really all I'm going to say, because you definitely want to go into this, I would say, pretty blind, maybe just have a basic, you know, don't read more into what the synopsis is. Takes place in California, I believe. But yeah, so this was good. Prompt number 3 was actually a challenge, and this was to have a cozy reading night. And the book that I used for the cozy reading night was Lovesickness by Junji Ito. Gave this one 4 stars, 402-page horror manga. So I just sat in a recliner, had a glass tumbler with ice and a can of peach. I'm blanking on it, but it's like a peach sparkling water is what it is. Fresca is the brand I'm thinking of. They also have a black cherry, which is really, really good. But I was trying the peach and it was actually pretty good. So yeah, so I went with this one, had a cozy reading night while reading this one, and it was fun. It was good. And you had to take a picture of your cozy reading spot. And so I took a picture of that and submitted that. Okay. Prompt number 4 was to read a book with multiple POVs. I'm going with Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This was 603 pages. I gave this one 4 stars. It is dark. As far as it is full of bullying, because we're following a 15-year-old who turns 16, and then the male interest is 17. The female lead who's 15 and then goes 16, Shannon is her name. She is bullied relentlessly at school, and her home life is terrible. The siblings watch out for each other. However, it is full of physical and emotional abuse as well as neglect. So it is dark as far as that goes, and a lot of that. So it takes place in Ireland. But I gave this one 4 stars, and I had a great time reading this, and I look forward to continuing. This is book number 1 in the Boys of Tommen series. The main male character, Johnny Kavanagh, is a rugby team captain, and he's basically a big shot, and he finds it refreshing that Shannon doesn't care that he's a big famous rugby player. So she likes him for who he is, not because he's a big rugby star. So yeah, it was a fun read, but it is dark and can be difficult at times. Definitely this one left off on a cliffhanger. So yeah. And then the last reading prompt, there's 2 more prompts, but the last reading prompt was the group read, and the group read was Homegoing. I almost said Homegoing. Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. 4 stars. My enjoyment level would be more like a 3-star just because it is heavy. This is following, like, I counted 7 generations. So, and I've heard that it's actually like 8, but I counted 7. And it's following 2 different people. So you have the 2 that start, which in this case is Effia and Essie. So they're the start, and they are actually half-sisters. They don't know of each other. And then you're following one of their descendants, and then one of their descendants, and then one of their descendants, and it just keeps going. So each chapter is from a different person's POV. This is all told in 3rd person. And this starts out in like the 1700s, so about around the mid 1700s until closer to present day, definitely mid 1900s maybe. And it is, so my enjoyment of it was like a 3, just because of how heavy the topics are. This is at the start of slavery, where the white men come to Ghana, Africa, and people start getting taken from their homes. They get sold by other people in Africa, by other people that are black. So blacks are selling blacks to whites type of a situation. And sometimes just that whole thing. So like a deal is made, and so financially people are putting financial gain above other people's lives, which is disgusting. And so people are sold, they are kidnapped from Africa and put into slavery. Some people are kind of forced into marriage. So like there's a black girl that's forced into marriage with a white man. You do have rape depicted on page twice. Not overly graphic, and it is very short, like 2 or 3 sentences. But it is on there. You also have a hanging. So it goes from like the start of the slave trade to everything with slavery, and then the big, all like slavery is abolished, but people are still trying to participate in the slave trade, and then they're not, and then it's all about like this, it goes from the slave trade, and then segregation comes in, the slave trade ends, but there's still segregation and racism, so it's heavy. I'm giving it a 4-star because I'm finding this should be, I think, a required read in schools. Now, this was published after I graduated from high school, so maybe in some schools this is a required read. I don't know, but I think this should be a required read. The author did a fabulous job of depicting what the start of the slave trade, everything with the slave trade, and then watching as things kind of, what it was just like being Black, not only in America. Not much of this takes place in America. There are parts that take place in various states in the United States, like Alabama, New York, things like that. But most of this does take place in Ghana, Africa. And it was just an amazing read, and 4 stars with how I think an important read it is, and the messages and the negative feelings that it evoked with making me mad and sad for what actually happened and how people were treated. 3 stars because it was not a fun read, if that makes sense. So 4 stars, I highly, highly recommend. This was 300 pages. And then the last prompt for Team Elephants was the activity prompt, which this one was to make 2 people out of my books. Now, I saw that people would take something like how this one has heads. They would find one that has like a head, and then one that has a torso, and maybe like the bottom of someone's body and that. And so they did that. I don't really have a lot of books like that. So I just found a book that was like 2 books. I did a man and a woman, and I did it from like the waist up is what they had, so the torso to the head. And then I just took other books and kind of laid them with the spines facing up to create like the bottom part of the torso, like the butt, and then legs and the feet. So that's how I did it. But I like how other people did it better. So yeah, so that's what I did. I took that picture and submitted that today. So all of my prompt completions have been submitted. So for the Tales from Two Trails competition for Team Elephants, I have read 1,863 pages. And I completed this in about 26 days, so that works out to be about 71.5 pages per day, just a little bit more than that, like 71.65, so 71.5 pages. I gave 4 books 4 stars, 1 book 5 stars, so a total of 21 stars issued for this challenge. And with 5 books completed, that worked out to be a 4.2 star average for these reads. So let me know, are you participating in the Tales from Two Trails reading challenge hosted by Cam from Expedition Through Pages? And if you are, what team are you on? Let me know. Talk to me in the comment section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I will talk to you later.